All right, dozens of Indians and other foreign students in Canada were seen queuing up to seek jobs at Tim Hortons, a popular coffee and fast food chain in early 2024. Students were ready to work in such places and so competitively at one point, and now what was once a near automatic first choice for Indian students is in a flux. Canada's visa regime is showing signs of strain, and the numbers are telling us a story. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Deep Dive by NewsX. You're watching me, Vineet Malhotra, and today we are going to take a look at why Indian students' first option is now going through a rather major change. The Canadian government is reportedly seeking authority to cancel applications for a group of visa holders over concerns of fraud from India, at least in part. Internal documents from immigration authorities are scrutinizing visa applications from India as well as Bangladesh. According to a presentation made in the Immigration Minister's Office of Canada, the Canada Border Services Agency has verified this. Unnamed US partners and Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada have vowed to recognize and cancel visa applications of fraudulent visitors. The proposed powers are included in Bill C-12, part of a new border control framework derived from an earlier version of Bill C-2. The provision would allow Ottawa to cancel classes of visas in exceptional cases such as pandemics, wars, or for visa holders from specific countries. In the Bill C-12, it is clearly mentioned that each and every student is required to appear for an examination, answer questions truthfully, and produce all relevant documents or evidence that an officer requires. It also states that the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act has added two new grounds of ineligibility for claims for refuge protection, as well as powers to make regulations respecting exceptions to those new grounds. It also includes a transitional provision respecting the retroactive application of those new grounds. Well, in August, as what was once a top destination for Indian students is now losing appeal amongst them. The country's restrictions on international students have hit applicants from India and the most, according to government data and sources. Compared to a 32% rejection rate in August 2023, Canada denied permits to about 75% Indian applicants to study at its post-secondary institution in August this year. That's 3 people out of 4. Meanwhile, about 40% of overall study permit applications were denied in both months, while around 24% of Chinese study permits were rejected in August 2025. Well, the data also showed that the number of Indian students applying for study permits witnessed a major drop, falling from 20,900 in August 2023 to 4,515 in August 2025. Well, for years, India has been Canada's top source of international students. The Indian Embassy in Ottawa said that while it was aware of the increasing rejection rate of Indian students' applications, the issuance of permits is entirely within Canada's authority. The high rejection rate also comes as New Delhi and Ottawa work to repair ties after more than a year of diplomatic tensions during the administration led by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Canadian authorities in 2023 found that almost 1,550 study permit applications included fake letters of acceptance, many of which were traced to India, as reported by the Immigration Department. It also said that the new upgraded verification system flagged more than 14,000 likely fraudulent letters of acceptance from applications received last year. A spokesperson for the department clarified that the country has now tightened its verification process for international students and increased the financial requirements for applicants. Over 300 civil society groups have reportedly raised concerns over the legislation, saying group cancellations would give the government the ability to set up a mass deportation machine. The documents reportedly highlighted that asylum claims from Indian nationals have increased from fewer than 500 a month in May 2023 to about 2,000 by July 2024. It claimed that verifying temporary resident visa applications from India slows down application processing. The processing time reportedly rose from an average of 30 days at the end of July 2023 to 54 days a year later. Due to this, approvals also started dropping in 2024 from more than 63,000 in January to about 48,000 in June, as it committed more resources to verification. While the IRCC said it has taken concrete steps to minimize unnecessary border volumes, increase information sharing, and reduce non-genuine visitors and illegal crossings. The department reported a 97% drop in illegal US crossings and a 25% increase in visa refusals for fraud compared with the same period last year. The University of Waterloo, home to Canada's largest engineering school, reported a two-thirds drop in the number of Indian students joining its undergraduate and graduate programs over the past few years. Similar declines have been recorded at the University of Regina and University of Saskatchewan. Ian Vandenberg, Associate Vice President of Strategic Enrollment Management of the University of Waterloo, has stated that the change has altered the institution's diversity portfolio and profile. What was once a seamless academic pipeline between India and Canada is now caught between suspicion and diplomacy. For many, the dream destination has turned into a waiting room. Well, let's talk about this and what does this mean for Indian students and what does this also mean for the diplomatic ties between our nations. Dr. Sharath Kohli, Senior Economist, with us on the program to talk more about this. Dr. Kohli, well, it seems that there is definitely now an embargo of sorts on Indian students applying for visa and student permits to Canada. What do you think this should be classified as? I read in my opening monologue that this could also be a rehash, a tweaking of diplomatic ties as there is a new leader at the helm of affairs in Canada. But does that really change how immigration moves back and forth if there's a new leader and they're trying to in fact create this urgency that if diplomatic ties are not streamlined, immigration will suffer?
Good evening, Vineet, and good evening to the viewers of NewsX. With due respects, I would like to say that Canada has got one of the most confused immigration systems. It keeps changing every now and then. Well, there's more to it, Vineet, than the eyes can see. There is a very common phrase which says, try and cover something with a lie, and you have to speak 100 lies. And you say one statement in truth, and you just have to say one statement. And why I said this phrase here is because the fact of the matter is that Canada is barely growing at 1.5%. There is a housing shortage. No new houses are being built for obvious reasons. There is a sharp skilled labor problem which leads to an employment issue. So people are not getting the employment. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to save those limited number of jobs for the people from within the country. And there is a touch of racism here as well. To single out Indians, I don't talk about Bangladeshis, but single out Indians, some of the most successful business stories in Canada are Indians. And some of the universities, or what surprises me is some of the universities in Canada, especially in British Columbia on the western side and in Ontario province, they survive 70% on Indian students. So what are those universities going to do? That's why you find these 300 civil societies trying to, move the government to say that this is not going to work. They will probably run out. They'll be jobless. The universities has got hundreds and hundreds of people employed. Well, without the students, they're going to be jobless. 40% of the revenue on an average of the education system in Canada comes from India. Well, I agree that there may be those odd cases of fraudulent papers. There is a lot of jugaad which goes in India, and they do try and file papers and get into the camp. There may be odd cases, but those are there across the world. That they come from China as well. That happens from other emerging countries as well. So why single out Indians? Well, this is an outcome that the Justin Trudeau damage, which happened in the ties, those damages have not been entirely set back. They have not been turned around. Mr. Kearney may be at the helm, but then the fact of the matter is that the ties are still not back to the normal, although we are talking of a trade deal as well. We are trying to repair. Things are better than before. But this is the problem, as I said, is more than the eyes can read. The problem is deep dive within the Canadian economy. The Canadian economy at this point of time cannot afford, because these are the students. If you go into the history of 20 years from now backwards, you will find, Vineet, that these students, when they passed out, they got converted to to their work visas. They applied for PR as well. Some of them had very wealthy background. They bought the PRs of various provinces and got various, like Saskatchewan has got a very attractive, visa program. So they bought those visas by paying the amount, and they had very successful business stories. Some of the finest people who work in Canada are of Indian origin. And as a result, the Canadians and other nationalities, they do not get the job because the Indian skill is known across the world. So the jobs get taken away, which causes a bit of discomfort within the population, so that they want to nip it in the bud. Then let's not allow these students
Dr.
to
Kohli,
come in.
do you think that Canada is getting swept away by this sense of jingoism, right-wing jingoism that we are seeing across continents and across nations? If you talk about the MAGA movement, if you talk about what's happening in Europe, specifically what's happening in the United Kingdom as well, do you think that it's all part of that social rejuvenation that's happening in countries, and it's also a part of their jingoistic awakening, so to speak?
It is, Vineet, undoubtedly it is. We have been witnessing that across the world when people come out on streets. And a very important aspect that you mentioned, I was about to speak about that, that is, it just trails America. It does what America does. It follows what America follows. Although Canada, America are two of the largest trade allies. I mean, for America, Canada is amongst the top business partners. And after that video of Ronald Reagan, where he was talking about certain things when President Tariff threatened the tariffs, and then the Canadian Prime Minister apologized to President Trump. But I don't think President Trump has paid heed to that. He wants to make Canada as the 51st state. What is the value of Canada as far as America is concerned is known by the statement being made by President Trump. But despite that, I think Canada has been considered as a gateway to America. A lot of students that I know, they go there as a gateway because they can't get through to America. So they go to Canada, they seek asylum. They do, tricks have been done in the past. I don't deny that. There have been cases where, some of the Indian origin people have gone and played tricks. They've either done something with the documents, or they have probably misrepresented their identity. There have been cases of passports being replaced or a fraudulent passport. And so there are stray incidents. But that doesn't mean you single out the entire Indian community. I don't think that is a solution to the problem. And this is a self-destructive measure. Indians will find the place, Vineet. We are going to, probably Europe will be a gainer, Australia will be a gainer. The beneficiary of Indian student migration will be other countries. But what will happen to Canada, which is hardly growing at this point of time? This was a source of a foreign exchange. It was source of so many, because these Indian students, they came from a very good background. They were big spenders there. The GDP machinery was running on the ground of Indian. They were spending recklessly on traveling, food, clothing, buying. I mean, and their families used to travel. I know a lot of families whose children study in Canada. The whole family goes to meet them, in summers, and they spend about 2 months there. Imagine the kind of money that they spend there. So what is Canada going to do without that bit of economy now missing if they block these students? So I think it's a self-destructive measure. Some of the universities are going to close down with it. I have a fear.
You're absolutely right, Dr. Kohli. Appreciate you joining us, sir, and thank you for that perspective. Well, on that note, we're dipping into a very short break. Be right back.